King, and we are two brown chicks changing the face of therapy on both sides of the couch. Welcome. We appreciate you joining us today. If you do not know who this person is, we don't know how you don't. We have Miss Patrice C. Washington.
Yes.
Award-winning author, transformational speaker, and a hope restoring coach. The money maven.
Yes.
That's how I first was introduced.
Yes.
I was introduced to you a couple years ago on the Brown Ambition. I'm obsessed with that podcast.
Yes.
And I listened to you and I was like, oh my gosh, she's so amazing.
I know.
So we are so excited to have you here, and we appreciate the support when you like reposting our stuff on social media and stuff like that. So we really do appreciate it.
Yeah, well, they're like, wait.
To be here.
Yes.
Like, wait, Patrice Washington.
She sent me a screenshot like, look who just reposted our stuff.
Yeah, well, I'm really grateful for the opportunity. And you guys know I tagged you some time ago because I was saying, I think maybe during like a mental health awareness month or something like that I really appreciated the work that you guys do. So I'm excited that you invited me to have the conversation because I think it's a necessary one.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So we're going to talk about mental health, of course, but also just like money issues that we all have, especially as therapists. And
getting your insight.
Yeah, getting your insight to help some of us as professionals, because I know we struggle a lot with just what it means to be a therapist, and like feeling like we are working within our purpose, which is a big part of your platform, but then also do we get to get paid well? But we'll talk about all that. But first, can you tell people a little bit about your story? We know you went from making lots of money to not making any money to then making more money. So it's been a whole transition for you. So can you update people on what's happened?
Yeah, well, I always tell people, so a lot of people know me from the different shows or from my podcast now or different things. And I always want to start by letting people know that I don't consider myself to be the money maven because of textbook, although I do have the education and the background. What truly drives me to do the work that I do is my own testimony. And so, like you said, I'll make a long story very short so we could get to the juicy stuff. But I did get into real estate really early in life, about 19 years old. I became a licensed salesperson. By 21, I was a licensed real estate and mortgage broker. And by 25, my now husband, then boyfriend, and I had created a 7-figure real estate empire. So between owning a real estate, mortgage, and escrow boutique, brokerage, we also had invested in a lot of real estate, about 13 pieces of property between the two of us, and just done a lot of flips and all those things. And it was going really well until, I say until, thought it would go on forever, you know when you're young and kind of dumb. We literally thought it would go on forever, and then the recession hit. And so the recession hit. And in 2007, if you were in real estate at that time, that's when you started to feel it, even though people talk about 2009. 2007, I found myself taking a really bad fall down the stairs in my home and getting to the emergency room and realizing that I was in preterm labor. I was 20 weeks pregnant.
Wow.
And when I got there, they said, ma'am, this baby is going to come any minute now. I was in full-blown labor.
Wow.
And I say nothing but the grace of God. Like, they did the work. They gave me the little steroid shots. They did everything they could. And my daughter's such a fighter. She hung in there. And one day in the ER turned into 3 days, turned into them saying, we just have to admit you. Wow. And I spent 10 weeks on bed rest in the hospital, Cedars-Sinai, Beverly Hills, California. During that time, the real estate market was starting to crash. And so while I'm in the hospital trying to figure out how I'm going to keep this baby baking as long as I possibly can, I'm watching the news every day, and you want to talk about a whirlwind of emotion. I'm watching the news every day, and the banks that I work with are closing down left and right, left and right. Yeah. I had 16 loan officers and real estate agents that worked for us. None of their deals were closing. They were so used to me being the fixer, the one that everyone came to. And I'm like, I can't help you. I can barely help myself. I can't even get up.
You're still in the hospital, right?
What can I do for you? And so there was one moment in particular, which was kind of a defining moment for me, where I was bugging out. I saw someone I knew, like, going off on the news. He was like someone in real estate, and they were like doing a live interview, and he was like going nuts. Yeah. And that's when it was like, oh my gosh, this is real. Like, this is really real. And I start freaking out. And I wore a belt around my waist to monitor the baby like all day, 24/7. And my doctor came in the afternoon, you guys, and she said, if you don't stop stressing out, you're going to leave here 2 years in a row with no baby.
Wow.
Because the year before I had a son who passed away prematurely, same hospital, same floor.
Wow.
And so I made a decision in that moment that I had to surrender. Like, and I had to trust that if I did it once, I'd have to be able to do it again. But at this very moment, nothing matters more to me than being a mother and putting this baby here, safely. And so my daughter held on. She was born in 30 weeks, 2 days. She was 3 pounds, 2 ounces. She's still here running everything now. She's 11 years old. But in that season, I had to learn to surrender.
Yeah.
And so I surrendered. By the time I got out of my 10 weeks in the hospital, her 3 weeks in the NICU, no deals closing and racking up nearly $400,000 of medical debt. I found myself going from a 7-figure business to about a year after that, scraping up change.
Wow.
And went through a whirlwind of emotions. I didn't know I had postpartum depression until later. I didn't, talk about it. Like I didn't know. I felt a sense of guilt and shame because I wasn't excited about being a mother like I thought I would be. And then I thought it was because, they took her from me and I didn't have that moment where they get to, you hold your baby. They were like, here's your baby, bye. And that was it. I didn't see her for almost 24 hours. And so I'm like, maybe that did it. So I went through a whirlwind of things between my personal and professional life. We ended up fleeing California, not moving nicely, cover of the night. California, moved to Metairie, Louisiana, where we had some property that we were going to try to just hurry up and finish. Didn't work out that way. The contractors had been stealing money the whole time. They had not done the work they said they were doing. Squatters in our house. It was a mess. And so it was there in that moment where I was like, you know what, God, I can't take this anymore. Like, I have been a good person. I have treated people well. I operate in integrity. I don't deserve this. Like, you gotta help me figure something out. And what started as kind of looking in the mirror and just having this conversation with God ended up being like a full blown, ugly, nasty cry on the floor.
Fetal position.
Fetal position. You know what I'm saying? So you didn't have a good ugly cry.
Had a few of those.
And I ended up on my knees on the bathroom floor with literally my forehead on the linoleum, just bawling out like, God, why?
Yeah.
Something. And it was at that point, I feel that I heard a still small voice that was like, get your Bible. And I got my Bible. And I ended up on a scripture, Proverbs 17:16. And it said, what good is money in the hands of a fool if they have no desire to seek wisdom?
Wow.
I'll never forget this moment. It's still, chills.
Yeah.
And I've said this story probably 2,000 times, and it doesn't change because that is when my life changed.
Yeah.
Like, that is when everything changed for me. And that Proverbs 17:16, what good is money in the hands of a fool if they have no desire to seek wisdom? And for me, that was the beginning of, like, you've been really good at chasing money. You've been really good at, figuring out how to add different streams and all this stuff, but you never sought wisdom. You don't know how to ask for help. You've never known, you've never really been coachable. You've been and not intentionally a know-it-all, but I went to a great school. I was on the dean's list at USC in Southern California. I didn't breeze through school, but I did learn how to study, and I made things happen, and I was a great test taker. And so I felt like, what you mean?
Yeah, I got
this. What are we talking about? And so now I know that I was humbled in that season so that I could have the compassion that I have now. Because when I was growing my business, I was very passionate about financial education, but I couldn't without going through all the things that I went through. And trust me, it was a lot. It was a lot in that season. I wouldn't have the compassion now that I have for people. And so all that to say, that brings me to this moment where I've, written 4 books on personal finance, and did 4 years on nationally syndicated radio, done tons of media, coaching women through this stuff and all this stuff because, that season shaped who I was destined to be. And I'm grateful to be here with you guys and have this opportunity to share.
We're so grateful to have you and to hear, I was listening to one of your episodes where you talk about the importance of us saying what our fears are and sharing this backside story, right? That people see you now and they see everything, but they don't
they didn't get to see necessarily the surrender on the linoleum floor.
Right.
So those are those parts that connect us as humans. And where, some of us are sometimes a little bit ahead of one another and how we can reach out.
And I think it's disheartening to see people tell their story from a place of mountaintop to mountaintop.
Right.
Because nobody just jumps from mountaintop to mountaintop.
Right.
Like, we gotta go through some valleys, and when you're in it, you don't understand it. And one of the things that I learned to do was fight for gratitude, fight to find something to be grateful for. My husband and I, when we were in New Orleans with no friends, no family, and this little baby, we would make up these mantras. We would, because our Range Rovers had been repossessed. Okay, it was voluntary. I called hey,
just come get them.
You want us to drop these off? They were like, no, pay the bill. No. Where do you want it? And so we were in a beat up yellow van that we had in New Orleans. It was a work van. It looked like a predator's van. It was like a van, and people were like, grab your kids. It's definitely scary. It was one of those things. But we used to still look at Range Rovers, and we had, I had a Benz, and he had a BMW, and we had all these cars, and we would be like, been there, done that on the way back.
Oh, I love that.
Been there, done that on the way back. We just had all these little mantras and things that even in the midst of begging the power man to turn the power back on, or my baby's milk was spoiled and I didn't have more money for milk. Even in the midst of that, I still chose to believe that I was in a season. This was not my life.
Right.
It's a season. You need to fight to find the lesson and the blessing in this, and know that there's something on the other side. And so when I got up off that bathroom floor and that message kind of hit me, one of the first things I said is, God, if you restore me, I will go everywhere I can and share with people that this journey is not about chasing money. We have to be more diligent about seeking wisdom. We have to be more diligent about saying, I don't know what I don't know, right? But I know somebody knows it. So instead of being fearful about saying what I don't know, I'm going to put it out there and see what comes. And the more I started to do that, you guys, I started to attract different people who were like, oh, I know how to do that. Oh, I can help you do that. Oh, I just took a class on that. Oh, you should read this book. And that began, the kind of journey back. And so I got to do it again, but do it with a better foundation.
Right. And it sounds like you had a much better direction as well. Of I know that I don't have to do everything. I can depend on other people, or I can reach out to other people to get that help that I need, as opposed to a lot of times as entrepreneurs, we're always trying to juggle every ball, as opposed to hey, some things you have to let go and give to other people in order for you to grow and help others.
And I think what you're really highlighting is what we talk about all the time, which is vulnerability, right? So saying, I don't know. I'm putting myself in a vulnerable position, or I'm highlighting my vulnerability, but that's what facilitates our ability to receive. Right. So I love how you're highlighting that, because that's a way of showing how vulnerability can actually be your strength and empower.
Oh my gosh, is it ever? Yeah. I'm reading a book now. I just interviewed the author of this book, Wealth Can't Wait, by David Osborne. And I interviewed him yesterday, and he was just saying that one of the 7 wealth traps that he has is being a know-it-all. And you prevent yourself from getting to the next level of wealth in your life if you think you know it all. It doesn't matter if you make $10,000 a year, $100,000 a year, $1 million a year. There's still more for you to learn. There's still way more to go. And so when you encounter people who feel I don't even know what this word is, but you see the action.
We know what it means. Yeah.
So when you encounter people like that, even to this day, I'm puzzled by people who will hire me as a coach and then not want to do the work. I'm like, girl, I will refund you first. Now I've learned in my coaching to, talk to people first. Have a call with them, talk to them first. And if I pick up on any sense of you not being coachable, I'm not the coach for you. Right. I'm not the coach for you. Seeking wisdom is real for me. That's why it's my social media handles. Yeah. Seek wisdom is my daily reminder for myself not to ever get so caught up that I think, I believe my own hype. Right. I'm not moved by any of this. I'm grateful for everything that I've experienced. but I've also grown enough to know that I'm not moved by this. These things can be taken away tomorrow.
Right.
Absolutely.
Like, you know, but the main thing is, it doesn't matter what money is taken away as long as my mind isn't bad.
Right.
I'm always going to be good.
Right.
And that's exactly why for me, you know, with you guys have heard my podcast. So the pillars that I have, for the 6 pillars of wealth, the very first one is fit.
Right.
And it's about not just being physically fit, but being mentally fit.
Yes.
Right.
And that's where we lose it. Like if you're not mentally equipped for the journey that is entrepreneurship,
Yeah.
like this is a man. Like, every day I wake up thinking sometimes like what am I doing? Like, did the Lord really call me?
Why did I make this decision?
And I'm telling you, this is after all the media, all the tours, all the speaking, all the stuff. I still some days am like, Lord, did I hear you right? Maybe I was so in my feelings that I messed up the message. Like this is a daily decision, right?
That's really affirming. Absolutely.
And, this is a daily decision. And even for those of us who are moving in complete purpose.
Yes. Yes.
If you don't question it at least 72 times a year, I don't know what you're really doing.
Right. That is so powerful because, again, I think in our social media world where everything is filtered, where you see the highlight reel of everybody's lives, you see other entrepreneurs, you know, and we do doubt ourselves. I mean, she and I will have this like every day, you know, we share an office suite, you know, so we're like, what are we doing?
What's happening?
Like, this is what we're doing today. Yeah, we do that. Okay, we'll do it again tomorrow. Yeah, I think so.
She's going to keep going.
And that's what you need, though. You need like a business bestie.
Yeah.
My husband is one of my business besties, so he talks me off the ledge like every other Thursday, Friday. And I do the same thing for him and his businesses. Like, the thing is, I feel like if you are not taking any great risks, though, you're not going to grow anyway. And entrepreneurship is a risk. It is a faith walk, if nothing else, every day. But I do believe that's why you have to maintain a level of mental fitness and toughness. And I try to incorporate that in many ways. Having a buddy that can like remind me that I'm not, you know, my husband's like, do you know what you've done? I'm like, that was 2018.
Yeah.
We starting fresh.
We're starting fresh. Right, we're starting fresh. So so I can tell you, and for me, I really knew that I had different things going on, right? And I always say that for entrepreneurs, sometimes we tend to believe, or for anyone really, we tend to believe that if we get another degree or another certification or move to the next job or get a new boss, then all of a sudden the heavens are going to open up. And the truth is, many of us need to go sit on somebody's couch and acknowledge the childhood trauma that we were dealing with that still, you know, holds a special place, right? In the back of our minds that prevents us sometimes from moving forward in a lot of different ways.
Right.
And ironically, the first year that my first business, the real estate and mortgage brokerage, hit 7 figures was also around the same time that I really got deep into my counseling and got consistent with my therapy. And I don't think that that's coincidental, because I grew up, you guys, feeling very ugly. So I always felt, you know, I grew up in Southern California, you know, it wasn't that popular to be chocolate, you know. And so I used to get you're kind of pretty for a dark girl. Or you are right. Like if you was lighter, you would be, or obviously I had full lips and, you know, the high cheekbones and all the Afrocentric features that were not so popular
right now.
Before people start paying for the mask. In the 80s and 90s, no one told me. So I was used to being teased about it, not just outside of my home, but sometimes inside of my home too. And so I grew up with a kind of a complex. So I would, hold my lips in, you know, in a lot of pictures I didn't smile. I would do this. I was really tall. I'm 5'10". And so I've looked the same since like 8th grade. And so I was taller than all the boys and I was super skinny. So I would wear extra clothes and I would slouch a little to not be so tall. And I just looked like, I don't know, the letter C. On a lot of pictures I see now, I'm like, what in the world? Somebody should have scooped me up. But because I was smart, And because I was a good student and I was a great athlete, people assumed that I was fine. And so I depended on those things. So I overdosed on achievement and success, right? I made that the thing in my life to kind of mask that I really didn't feel that pretty or worthy, or, you know, I had like these other things going on. And so I didn't realize it was a real issue until I was 22 years old. I went to Italy and Spain with one of my best girlfriends for 3 weeks. I had just bought a place, but it was totally gutted and all this stuff, but I never had time to furnish it, just the way it lined up. And so I left for 3 weeks, about 20 days. I came back, and my then boyfriend, now husband, had decorated the whole place.
Oh, wow. And,
I mean, made me a headboard girl.
Oh, like, wow. That was the moment. He's the one.
You know, put clothes up. He did everything. But what he did was he took these huge pictures that he loved of me. He blew them up, and he had them all around. Now, I was not used to really looking at pictures of myself. And I didn't I hadn't learned how to look in the mirror without cringing and wishing that something was different. So seeing these blown up pictures freaked me out. And I was first tears of joy because I enjoyed, you know, what he had done, obviously. And then when I started getting into these pictures, I was like, you know, you would have thought it wasn't me.
Right.
And that turned into a different kind of cry. Like, it went from tears of joy to just like, oh, why is it? And he's like, oh my God, is it the paint color? Like, what happened? What is going on? And I'm like, why would you do this? Why would you put these pictures up? Like, I don't like that. And he's like, what do you mean? These are beautiful. Yeah. And that could not land. Like, I could, in that moment, I could not believe that. I'm like, he liked me because I make money. Like, I know what this is. You know, in my head, we have been best friends for over a year, and then we started dating slowly, and then it turned into something, but it never dawned on me that he thought I was also beautiful. That didn't resonate. And so, like, you should probably talk to somebody. You might want to, it's like, because I see something totally different. I don't understand what you're talking about. And I ended up going to therapy. I was about 22, 23 by the time I went to therapy. And I was 25 before I could look myself in the mirror and not cringe. And not just feel like, and like, I mean, get in the mirror and look. Head on, dead on, and go, well, you're kind of cute. You're actually all right. Like, wait a minute. Come on, what's the color on these lips? I grew up being told that I couldn't wear, I wouldn't be able to wear lipstick, or bright colored lipstick, because my lips were too big. Baby, I will pop a red lip on you. Dress the black and white now. Pull a red lip, an orange lip, a pink lip. But I didn't know that. And so, like I said, coincidentally, or I don't believe it's any coincidence, but around the same time is when my confidence also continued to grow. And I was putting myself out there more in terms of educating people, which is how we really grew the business. I would go to churches and conferences and stuff, talk about home ownership as a key to wealth and all these different things. And so that would bring in droves of clients for the business. And so I always tell people the reason that this is so important, though, is because I think about today. Now, I didn't know that I would go on to write books. I didn't know that I would go on to speak on major stages. Like this year, I'm doing several events that are like 2,000 up. Some of like a 5,000 up, 6,000 up, right? So, you know, I didn't know that I would be on stages. I didn't know that I would be on national television dozens of times. I didn't know that any of these things would happen. And it's like, if I hadn't have sat on someone's couch and dealt with some of the childhood trauma and learned how to forgive people who would never say I'm sorry, who went to their grave not acknowledging what they did to me, right? If I hadn't learned that hurt people, if I hadn't learned that nothing that was said to me was my fault, nothing that I brought on myself, if I hadn't learned that I was created in God's image, and so he made no mistake on me, this is the face I was supposed to get in the body I was supposed to get from before my mother even knew me, right? If I didn't learn how to adapt a new definition of forgiveness, which for me is now giving up the possibility of a better past and accepting that what is, you know, and there's nothing that I can do to go back and try to fix or change or edit or alter or any of that. Like, that's done. If I hadn't gone to therapy and learned a lot of those things, how could I be who God was calling me to be in this season?
Right.
I would have never made it.
Yeah.
Because I would have self-sabotaged myself out of so many different opportunities. When shows called, when people called, when it even came time to do my books, I'd have been like, no, I don't know. You know, how many people tell me, I just bought your book because I thought you looked nice on the cover. And then I'm like, well, thank you.
Right.
And I remember before I self-published, I was going to go with like a small publishing company. And we were having a talk, and I was talking about like my idea for the cover. And they said, well, you know, you probably don't want to do that because mainstream doesn't really buy books like this from African Americans. And I was like, you know what? I've had too much therapy. The devil is a lie.
Right.
And I'm going to figure out how to self-publish on my own.
Right.
And I did that. And my face has been on every one of my books, including the last version that was I self-published, and then a major publisher bought it from me and put it on the shelves of Barnes & Noble, to Target and Walmart. And then it's translated now in other languages and stuff. And I'm like, even in Vietnam, they buy it.
Right. Yep.
So,
that's right.
Yeah, you know. So, but I think about and I've sold tens of thousands of copies of books, and I'm like, you know what? I couldn't have been this person had I not invested in myself by going to therapy, and that's why I start redefining wealth and everything that I do with the fit pillar. Because you can have all these other things. You can know how to make money. You can be as smart as you want to be. You can be as talented as you want to be. But if you are not mentally fit and have a strong sense of who you are outside of the labels and the titles and the hype that other people give you, these different industries and different opportunities will take you out.
Right.
It will take you out. And I speak at Paul Mitchell schools all over the country. One of the things that I always tell the young people in particular is that you are going to walk into spaces and arenas where people will instantly be annoyed by your anointing. Wow. Like, not because you've done anything, not because you've been acting funny, not because you came in with some, this is who I am. Like, none of that. Just because they are annoyed by your anointing.
Right. Yes.
Something that God gave you freely. And they gonna come for you. Yeah. And so when they start trolling, when they start lying, when they start posting things about you, when they make a fake account just to get on your goddamn nerves, when they do all of those things, you are responsible for being mentally fit and knowing that I don't care about the what ifs. Right. You can post what ifs about me all day. Right. You can say that I'm the meanest and nastiest. One of the things that I pride myself on is that I'm the same online as I am offline. You run into me, you don't get the same thing. I don't have a TV. I don't have a TV voice. I sit a little straighter. But you're going to get the same person. So I don't worry about other people's what ifs when I know what is. Yeah. Like, and as long as I know what is, and I know why I do what I do, and I know why I show up, and I know why I serve people, and I know that I heard what I heard when I was on that bathroom floor, and that is what encouraged me to be here. I don't care about the what ifs. Right. You can what if all day long. I'm never going to answer you. You're going to be arguing with yourself.
There you go. That's awesome. So powerful.
And that's the toughness that we have to develop as entrepreneurs in particular.
Right. Yes. I think you hit a lot of points that we wanted to talk about. But one of the ones that we talk about a lot, especially when it comes to minority communities, is that balance of faith and mental health and seeking therapy. And, sometimes we're taught different things like, you should pray about it. Right. If you have any mental health struggles or illnesses, it's the devil or, things like that. So how do you help people like that have that faith? Obviously, because you talk about your faith all the time. That is a huge part of your platform and who you are. But you also talk about going to therapy. So for people that are struggling with that, what advice would you give them?
So faith is also a pillar for redefining wealth. Right. And people have asked me in the last year or so since I've launched, well, shouldn't faith be the first pillar? I said no, because I know my people. I know my people. Yes. And so faith is not the first pillar. It's not the second or third pillar. Right? It's the fourth pillar because I tend to attract believers and people who are spirit-led and stuff because that's who I am. So that's what I attract. But what I wasn't going to do is let people off the hook. Right. Because prayer is not enough. Right. We still are responsible for showing up and doing the work. Exactly. And so when you say that faith without works is dead, and then you say you don't want to walk to the therapist. You don't
Right.
want to walk into some place. Like, who do you think that, I mean, I this boggles my mind. I'm like, so you think that the therapist is evil?
Right.
Like, you think that these trained professionals are like out here trying to like voodoo work?
Right,
Like, what do you think this is?
Right.
Like, you need support.
Yes.
You need help. You need something beyond that. And the truth is that even some of the greatest prayer warriors at my church, I go up for prayer. You know what I'm saying? Like, I talk to my pastor. We talk to our pastor and all those things. But at 11 o'clock today, my husband and I also have a meeting, our monthly session with our marriage counselor.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, we need someone who is trained with the tools and techniques that can help us.
Yeah.
And I think that to not take advantage of that is, one, selfish, but two, it's just foolish. Personally.
Yes.
And I'm not calling nobody a fool,
Right.
but I'm saying that I think it's foolish to not take advantage of tools and resources out there.
Right.
When I was dealing with the grief of my child passing,
Right.
I needed the tools to get through that.
Yeah.
I didn't need anybody telling me, well, just pray about it.
Right.
And people don't know what to say when you're grieving
Right,
and when you're going through different things in your life. So they hit you all kind of nonsense.
Right.
And it's like, I prayed. I'm still sad.
Right.
And I need tools. And not just sad, I'm angry.
Right.
I want to know why God did this. Why is this? And those are the ways that in those seasons are where I learned to fight for the blessing, fight for the gratitude and stuff. But I had to have someone tell me I could fight.
Yeah.
I didn't need someone telling me that I needed to be passive about my life.
Yeah.
And I really believe that had I not incorporated therapy and group, I did for grief, I did like a grief session, like group counseling type of session. Had I not been able to build relationships with other people who were in the same place as me, they had lost their children too in different forms, different ways, but they did. So we could connect. Like, that type of platform gave me a chance to heal. Like, that was the thing that kept me going. And so, I prayed.
Right.
Well, I felt like in my prayer time, I was being shown tools.
Right.
Like, I prayed, and then I would be praying for what to do next.
Yeah.
Like, I think that we get it twisted. Like, we're supposed to pray and then walk away and do nothing.
Right.
And I believe that when God sees what you're working on, he knows what you're waiting on. So he sees me working and searching for help and looking for, then I kept attracting the best people to do that.
Yes.
But I couldn't do that sitting in my house like, well, I pray and now I'm just here. Like, no, I had to read the book.
Yes.
Like, I had to make an effort to go to those group sessions.
Right. Yeah.
I had to make an effort, to keep up, even for my husband and I, these monthly appointments. Girl, because when it's going down, those turn weekly.
Yeah.
Okay? When I'm like, let me Google these apartments, that's a weekly session. I'll be in a monthly session.
Right.
Yes. I don't think that you wait. For me, it's a lifestyle. Therapy is a lifestyle. Because at this point, I'm not going to wait to be beaten up and beat down by life before I go and seek out the tools.
Yes.
I'd rather just maintain it.
Right.
Yes.
I'm a maintenance girl.
Yes.
And I just feel like if it's a part of your life, right, dealing with the stressors of being an entrepreneur and sometimes the guilt of being a mother who's always on the road.
Right.
And now my daughter's getting older and she's having this like 6th grade girl drama and, like all these different things. There's just so many, and I've dealt with secondary infertility. So after my 2 pregnancies back to back, I've never been pregnant again, but it's been the desire of our heart. And so there's just so many different things that life throws at you. And if you don't have a sounding board for that, which cannot be your girlfriend, or, just it's like, I'm going to pray about it.
Right.
I believe in praying and still doing my part.
Right. Right.
And that's why the faith pillar for me is the 4th pillar in redefining wealth, because we go through the 5th pillar about being mentally and physically fit.
Yeah.
Like, you got to show up at the gym.
Yeah. Right.
You can be like, Lord, I prayed that these pounds melt off. Meanwhile, I'm stuffing a cheesecake. Like, that's not how this works, right?
Exactly.
And for me, therapy has helped me get to the root of so many of the things I didn't even realize were there, like limiting beliefs I had about different things. In terms of the people pillar, which is next, or the space pillar, the work pillar, or the money pillar, like being able to just flush some things out and talk through things and make a connection between things I did as a kid and how I'm still kind of operating in some of the things that, how to realize that you can't recondition what you don't recognize. you can be, again, going to school, getting more certifications, getting more degrees, going after the raise of promotion and not realizing that that's not even your problem.
Right, right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, those limiting beliefs that we then have that keep, because that's what you were describing earlier was how you were playing it small, right? Like how those beliefs limit us, how our life is really limited by the traumas, by, you know, whatever it is that we go through growing up.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And I really think when you talk about the stressors and the things that come up, finances is a huge one. But on another podcast that we just listened to, you were saying that a lot of people think they have a financial problem, but they have a people problem. And so while we're saying we're stressed out because we're not making enough money or, you know, or I have money, but it just keeps going or whatever the case may be, whatever our struggle may be financially, how do you connect that to our people problems?
So, yeah, I'm so glad you brought that up. So I realized that years ago when I was doing financial counseling down in Atlanta, you know, I would go through people's budgets with them and look through their bank statements and all this stuff. And so I would track them. I worked with them one-on-one every month for a year. And so it would become really apparent to me like 2-3 months in, once you get a rapport with people and you start listening to what they're not saying, right? Yeah. Like, and making these connections and looking at the statements and tracking things, I'm like, where does this keep going? Oh, well, you know, my son, he needs help. You know, that's my baby. Ma'am, he's 34 having sex on the regular. So I'm gonna venture to say that he's not your baby. Right. You're enabling him. At this point, you're enabling him. Right? And so you're here trying to get your own stuff in order, and you have created a whole line item on your budget, which you don't talk about, which is take care of baby boy, right? Like, absolutely. I'm like, you know, so you're trying to, but I realized with that client in particular, it was a form of control. Because she wanted to control where he went, what he did, how he did it, and all these things. And so because she wanted to control, but what void are you trying to fill by controlling him?
Right. Yeah. What are you trying to control within yourself?
Because your husband had left a long time ago. So now you're going to control the only man in your life because you couldn't control that one. I was like, child, I need to become a man.
Get your license.
There you go. Do something with this, right? Yeah. And so there's so many instances of different things like that where people will be enabling folks in their life, or the classic, especially because I attract a lot of high achieving women. So, you know, you got the degrees and you got the good job and you're the one in the family that's doing it. And, you know, you bought your condo in your 20s and the nice car. So you have all these things going on, but you also have a spending addiction. So you're the one that made it. You have all the trappings of wealth, if you will, what you perceive to be wealth. And what you're not telling anyone is you don't really have anything to show for any of this because you're actually unfulfilled because you went down a path literally just for the money. And forgot all about your own personal fulfillment. And now you're at a job that you hate. And so now you spend all day clicking around online shopping. And you develop a full-blown shopping addiction or other things that really just stem from the fact or you're also buying things for other people to win over their affection. Which is a big one, which is the people problem piece, right? So there's just so many ways that it all connects. So you don't have a problem budgeting. You're smart enough to go, oh, this is everything coming in, this is everything going out, and I need to balance these bottom numbers. You have a full-blown degree. That's what I need to tell you.
Adding and subtracting. That's all it is.
It's adding and subtracting. We're not dividing or nothing. Right? So that means that you are probably avoiding looking at some other areas of your life, and people is usually a big one.
Yeah. That's amazing. I think that's such a, because people, we like to just put it in one area. Absolutely. Like, I have money with my finances. I have money with my business. And so when you really look at it in a holistic way, kind of like what you said at first, like you have to be mentally healthy, spiritually, financially, all of those things go together. And a lot of times are interconnected. It's not just like, oh, if I fix this part, then everything else will be okay. Most of the time.
It's actually, so you guys, it's actually driven me to get an MBA with a concentration in financial psychology. Because I have been so fascinated by why extremely intelligent people make really poor decisions with money. And so even before I started redefining wealth, I was always seeding some of these things. And Real Money Answers in my book series, the first section is about creating wealthy habits, and it's more about behavior than it is skill set. It's very much a mindset and behavior thing. And so I've always been fascinated by it. When I was doing the one-on-one counseling with hundreds of people, I was completely fascinated by it. And I started to develop all these theories. And financial psychology is still relatively a new discipline. And so now that I'm in school, I'm a few weeks away from a final paper, which will give me my certification in financial as a certified financial behavioral specialist.
Wow.
Super excited about that
amazing.
and how I can help my audience, right? But then the other part of it is I was like, girl, you 5 classes away. Just go on with the MBA.
Right.
So hopefully a year or so from now, I'll be finishing my MBA as well. But the fascinating part is the things that I recognized when I was counseling people naturally, I didn't even know they had terms. So I had called them my own stuff. And now I'm like, oh, that's what y'all do.
Yeah, that's
So that psychology piece is so key. And it is why I truly believe in the work that I do with Redefining Wealth, because, you know, while it's not about helping you fix your credit, you know, like, girl, let me help you jump your credit 8 point. My goal is to truly help people shift the way they see themselves, period, in every area of their life, and trusting that because you continue to show up as a better person, right, in these different areas, because in the 5th pillar, you're becoming more and more mentally tough. You're developing the mental scripts to deal with fools, right? Like when you have to set boundaries, you already know what the script is. So you have like the mental toughness there. You're physically fit, so you're showing up more confident, you know. I used to be like, how can I be praying about going all over the world and I'm huffing and puffing here? Like, what? Like, if I can't use me all over the world, I might pass out on the plane. Like, that's not, right? So, you know, so I told you guys before we got on, I had just got in from the gym, right? So making that a part of the lifestyle, the people pillar, you know, creating relationships that matter and really unlearning how to have uncomfortable conversations, like getting comfortable having uncomfortable conversations and realizing that other people cannot fill any void that I have. Like I have to do the work. Exactly. That I'm living a fulfilled life, right? And then the space pillar, you know, setting up my life to support me so I'm not always, you know, driving myself nuts and wasting time and, you know, all the things that come with that I'm in an area that fuels me and inspires me and makes sure that I'm working towards my highest good. And then the faith pillar, believing in something greater, knowing that nothing has happened to you. Everything has happened for your good. And we get a choice to see that as the perspective, that literally all things come together for my good. Work pillar, being in your purpose and all that. The last pillar is money. You know? And to me, if you can get rid of the physical and mental clutter that all those things that we just talked about bring up for you, making and maintaining money is going to be the least of your work. But if you have distractions and all these other buckets, how can you ever focus on that? How can you ever focus on creating the plan to get you there and then executing the plan? If you gotta keep taking care of Pookie and Tookie and them, you know, you huffing and puffing and not taking care of yourself. And you know, as Black women in particular, we will take care of everyone else and to our own detriment. Like, how can you create the plan and have time to execute the plan to build wealth if you're worried about all these other things? It's very difficult. And the more clear, and it's a journey. So I don't even share this from the perspective of like, oh, I'm perfect in all these areas. I tell my audience all the time, we're doing this together.
Absolutely.
We're on this journey together. It's like I get 2 or 3 pillars really popping and then one over here, I'd be like, what are you doing?
It's an ongoing struggle. It's
my child has lost her minuses. Let me go. So, but it's having the awareness. And that's the problem. Many of us don't have the awareness. So when someone says, what's going on? You fall into, well, girl, you know, when it rains, it pours. We roll 2 quarters together. You start going back to all of the verbal influences and different things that you heard as a child. And you're literally stuck in that and you find yourself in this cycle. And so my goal is that Redefining Wealth be a disruptor in how people look at their finances. And to me, like we started out saying, mental health is going to be the leader for that. every day, every time.
Thank you. Oh my gosh, you gave us so much to think about. How do people get your books, stay in touch with you, follow you on social media, all of that?
So everything about me is at patricewashington.com. Okay. So that's a great place to go. You can get links to the podcast. Redefining Wealth is my baby right now. Yes. Yeah. We are like, I think, hundreds of downloads away from hitting the 500,000 mark.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, just over a year. So I'm really excited about Redefining Wealth. Right. Let's see, the Real Money Answer series you can get on Amazon. Yes. There's hundreds of reviews there. So you can, check out what people are saying. And I have Real Money Answers for women, for men, and also College Life and Beyond, okay. Which, a lot of folks use for their teenagers, right. Just out of college. And what else is social media? I'm Seek Wisdom, PCW. Really active on Instagram, which is how I connected with you.
I know, we're so grateful.
And Twitter, and even here on Facebook, my page is Seek Wisdom, PCW, and on YouTube. So
everywhere.
I'm everywhere. You can find me.
Yes, we will make sure to tag you in everything. So our final question for you, and I feel like we've talked about it so much, but why do you think therapy is dope?
Therapy is dope because I should know. I believe therapy is dope because it really gives you a chance to self-reflect quite a bit and recognize those things that if you don't recondition are going to hold you back in life. And at this point in my life, I'm coachable. So any needs that I have for accountability, right, which I believe therapy is a form of accountability as well. And so any way that I can incorporate accountability in my life is a win because I want to be great. I want to be great. I want to operate in excellence. I want to leave a mark on this world. I want to leave a legacy. And I don't think that I could operate at my highest potential if I did not have that level of accountability and that opportunity on a regular basis to self-reflect and get the support I need to keep moving forward.
Right. Love it. That's amazing. Thank you so much for joining.
Yes. And you're dope.
Yes, you are dope.
We still have 5 minutes, so we're going to ask you.
Okay. I was like,
we have 5 minutes. And so we always ask also, why are you dope? So what makes you dope?
What makes me dope? Dang. Okay, what makes me dope? What makes me dope, I believe, is my persistence and my resilience.
Love it.
I really believe that I am dope because even as an entrepreneur, waking up half the time and going, God, did you say this? I'm crazy enough to believe that I truly can impact people in a way that nobody else will if I don't do it. And I think you got to be dope to look at all the stuff that is, look at the reality of a lot of things that are going on and still say, but I have something to contribute. And I'm going to contribute it if they want to hear it or not. And I'm going to say it till they want to hear it. And I think that makes me dope.
That does. It does. And we are so grateful for your dopeness and everything that you shared with us today, everything you continue to share. Everybody make sure you check her out. I stay inspired. I stay inspired and listening to that podcast whenever you're featured somewhere on another podcast. So you are doing wonderful, wonderful work that is definitely making an impact.
Yes. So thank you to everybody that's watching and that is listening. Make sure you go to melaninandmentalhealth.com and follow us across social media at Melanin and Mental Health, Melanin Health on Twitter. And we are doing a Change in the Face of Therapy challenge. So make sure you let us know why you are dope, why you are a dope therapist, and why therapy is dope, and we'll feature you on our social media. We will talk to everybody later. Bye. Thank you so much. We appreciate you.
Oh my God.